Shane Delia hates being called celebrity chef, I'm told, but he is a celebrity chef. He's a businessman too, a TV star. His restaurant in Melbourne, Maha, probably his best known, and I think it's bordering on iconic status. But we don't know enough about this bloke. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. Shane, hello.
Thanks. Nice to be invited, mate. It's true. I don't do a lot of podcasts, especially because when I look back at the ones I've done in the past, they don't age very well sometimes.
What'd you get yourself into trouble?
No. I just think sometimes when you get asked to do a podcast, it's because there's a contentious subject or something's going on, and people want to get you on because you've got an opinion about it. And sometimes your opinion right then in that heat of battle might not be the same opinion you have 10 or 15 years later. So I just kind of went, but for you, mate,
Nothing,
I'm here.
nothing contentious today. Why don't you like being called a celebrity chef?
Because I reckon it can be a bit wanky sometimes. I think I'm not. I started off cooking to be a cook, to be a chef. I really wanted to be a chef, it's been one of the biggest accomplishments in my life to be able to succeed. I think as being a chef, the celebrity bit, it was never something I wanted or even thought was possible, and I'm really happy. I mean, I'm happy I've been able to succeed there, and it's flowed into my business life. But I'm not a celebrity, mate. I mean, I'm just a cook. You know, so I'm just a cook.
Well, let's just talk about that. If I was going to set up a restaurant,
Yeah.
what's the first thing I do? Brand new restaurant, new idea, new restaurant. What do I do? Is it
Well-
location? Is it staff? What is it?
Well, it's a bit of everything, and that's the secret sauce, right? I mean, and this is our 18th year at Maha, and I still struggle with what is the secret sauce to get a restaurant firing. I think that first of all, you need to be a master of your craft. I think that's what people forget now. It's how do I get to this point of opening the restaurant and make it successful? But first, step it back. Be a master of your craft, whether it's front or back of house. It doesn't matter. If you're going to be the front man and you're going to be the person that's running the front of house team, you have to have done the stepping blocks, and you have to know how to run the business, have relationships with suppliers, build a relationship with customers, know how to do those things, and then get to the point of location, concept, execution, and then you have to build the brand. I mean, and once you get that, then it's consistency.
But you wanted to be a cook. You want to be a chef.
Yeah.
You sound more businessman now. Do you
Yeah.
spend much time on the tools?
I still create all the dishes with my guys. I mean, I'm very fortunate now, as my beard gets greyer and my hair gets balder. Well, this is the only hair. The only time I get, I've got a lot more time to actually develop recipes. Yesterday, I had a great idea for a recipe that we want to put on, and I actually just went home and did it. I grabbed all the stuff from the supermarket, went home and spent time developing the dish. And with AI now, it's great. I sit there and set up one of my AI agents. I talk to it, explain to it what I'm doing. It helps me put the recipe together. Then I review it, and I sent it straight to my guys. I said, hey, let's get this on the menu, quick sticks. So my time cooking now is more in development, which is the fun bit. But I miss the heat of battle. I mean, the heat of battle is the fun bit, right? Like I suppose.
It is a battle zone in a kitchen, isn't it? A commercial kitchen.
Yeah, it is. It is. But that adrenaline rush is like no other, mate. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like a couple of weeks ago, we started a new menu, and I was watching the guys on the first day, and it was like watching the Titanic sink, mate. It was just like, I was like, I have to get in there. And in my mind, I was still Mike Tyson in his prime. But the reality is I was Mike Tyson with the scar on his face and not out of shape. So I got into the kitchen and I started doing my thing. And by the end of the day, I felt like I'd been run over by a truck. So I miss the thought of the adrenaline, but maybe I'm not the fighter I used to be.
Is it true that a lot of chefs just lose it in the kitchen? Do you ever do that?
As in lose...
getting going off at people or losing their temper.
It can become, it's quite intense. I think that whole stereotype of the chef, the Gordon Ramsay chef, that would lose his mind and also almost be championed for doing it. That time has passed, and thank God that time has passed. I mean, I thrived in that environment.
But you would have copped a bit as an apprentice.
I've copped a bit, and I'm no angel, and I've given a bit. You know, and I'm not going to be sitting here and living in a glass house. I've given my fair share as well in a different time. Not saying I'm not condoning it now. I thrived in that environment. I always needed to be pulled into line pretty quick, but I don't see it happening in my kitchens. Like my guys aren't like that.
Good. Going back to inventing the new dish yesterday, the idea comes to you. You get the ingredients. Who tells you it's any good or not?
I'm a pretty harsh critic.
Yeah. So you taste it yourself. Yep, this is on.
Yeah, and I will make notes, and I'll go back and change it, and I'll retest until I think it's right, and then I'll bring it to my team, and they'll cook. I'll get them to cook it. So once I've got the recipe, I say, hey, go cook that, and they'll present it back, and we'll all eat it. And like, what do you reckon? And yep, it's great. And then it can't just be one hit song on an album. I mean, the whole album has to be great, right? So then you think, okay, does it have a place on this album, or is it just a single? You know, if it's a single, it's something we're putting on a wine dinner like we're doing one tonight. You know, is it just something we hold for something like that, or a guest chef dinner that we're doing, or is this something we run as a special, but maybe it doesn't make sense as a dish on the menu? But we're pretty harsh on ourselves. So when something sings, it sings loud.
What's the best one you've come up with? What are you most proud of in the dish you've created?
That's a hard one. I mean, I've been doing it for a little while now. The ones are I suppose the best ones are the ones that people remember that you may have forgotten. Like I've had a mate of mine. He had his 61st birthday on Saturday night, and I asked him, what do you want for your birthday? He goes, I'd love it if you cooked me dinner. And I went, I'll come to the restaurant. He goes, no, you cooked me dinner at home. And I'm like, oh shit. So he came over for dinner, and I remember I've known him for about 25 years, you know, and I remember he used to love this little poached egg dish that I did back in the day. It was like a poached egg dish, and it was sort of hollowed out. It was like a soft shelled egg dish, hollowed out with smoked salmon and truffles and all that sort of old school stuff. It was a beautiful dish. And I served it to him as the first course, and his face just lit up, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you'd forgotten about that." And I said, "I know. That's why I cooked it for you." And he goes, "Mate, this is my favourite dish in the world." So for me, those dishes that bring memories to other people.
What about disasters?
Oh, there's plenty of disasters, mate. There's more there's more shockers than there are winners. I mean, I look back at some of the stuff. I'm just about to go over to Morocco in 2 weeks' time to do like a tour group, taking a group of people over. And I did a TV show there about 12 years ago. And a lot of the people that are coming because they saw me on that show. So I went, I better sit down and watch this show again because I haven't had a chance. And I watched myself, and I try not to watch myself, but I watched myself presenting 12 years ago this show, and geez, I was terrible. Like I look at goes, oh, I wasn't very good, and the food that we were cooking, oh, some of it didn't last the test of time. So, I mean, there's plenty of shockers. I think we did a dish. We did a dish on that show which was called mhencha, which is the serpent, or it's like a dessert, like a spiraled up almond dessert, and we filled it with chocolate and almonds. And yes, it sounds good, but I remember actually cutting into it and eating it, and it was dry as buggery, and it really wasn't good. So it might have come across good on TV, but the reality of eating it wasn't too good.
Why don't you watch yourself?
I get embarrassed.
I understand that. I understand. So do I.
Yeah, no, I get embarrassed.
Do you analyse yourself and say, I didn't do well, or you just go, oh, look at that?
No, I do analyse myself. And as a younger, I think I still have suffered a bit, but as a younger guy, my self-esteem wasn't great. I mean, I was, the fat little pudgy kid in school. It wasn't too long ago, I weighed 125 kilos. So
At what age?
I would have been 125 kilo. I would have been like 28. I'm 46 now, so a little while ago. And I'm only 5'10", so I'm not as if I'm a towering bloke. I look back at some of these times. You go, maybe there's body shame issues. Maybe there's the way you present. Maybe there's factual things that you got wrong that you wish that you got right. But I don't like watching myself.
You've got into the personal area. I couldn't find online how old you are.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm 46, 1980.
You didn't hide it.
No, I didn't hide it. No. It's 12 for the first, 1980.
Born in Australia, Maltese parents, migrants. Is it right they had strength in hospitality? You've got it tattooed on you? Is that a family motto?
Yeah, my dad's a big family historian and a historian in general. I mean, he had to leave Malta when he was 17, came here by himself on the boat and turned 18 when he hit the shores, and really wanted to study archaeology, and being in Malta, best place to study it. So we were drummed in with sort of Maltese history and who we are and where we came from, and but not from a position of look what we've left behind, and very proud to be Australian. I mean, my dad is like the most, the biggest fan of assimilation there could be. I mean, he came to Australia, stopped speaking Maltese, wanted to be Australian, was working in the Dunlop factory in Footscray, Started going for the dog straight away. Bought himself an LC Tirana. You know, he just really wanted whatever the sort of the stereotypical Australian was. That's what Dad wanted to be. I mean, name me Shane. The word Shane in Maltese means the word nothing, but it was the most Aussie name he knew. So it was Shane. So you know, he left all of that behind him, but still brought us up with this really strong passion and connection with our Maltese sort of background.
You had a hard time growing up, though. Why? Did you get bullied for being a wog?
A little bit, but I grew up in a woggy area. You know, I
Yeah.
grew up in the western suburbs of Melbourne.
Yeah.
So can I tell you, I didn't realise I was the minority until I left high school. You know, because everyone in my school, I remember there was only about 5 or 6 Aussie blokes.
5 or 6 skips.
Yeah, everybody else was Greek, Italian, Lebanese, Turkish, Maltese,
That's great.
Asian, you know, like heaps of Vietnamese, heaps of Filipinos. In primary school, I thought Maltese were the majority people because I grew up in Deer Park, went to a Catholic primary school. My dad, you know, we had 30 odd cousins on my dad's side, and that would be our entire sort of, you know, network. So it wasn't until I got older that I started to realise, hey, I'm one of there's less of me than there are of them, and but never really got bullied because of that. Got bullied because probably my self-esteem wasn't great. I wasn't healthy.
Well, you're told you were bad, dumb, and stupid.
Yeah, a lot.
What, just by teachers or?
Yeah, by teachers.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, no, a lot.
How'd you react to that? Well, it damaged the self-esteem.
I kind of thought I was, mate. You know, because
that's hard to live with.
yeah, you're getting told that all the time, and then you're getting in trouble. And then you feel like you're disappointing people, right? You feel like you're disappointing your parents. You know, you're getting suspended from school. You don't want to go to school. You get sort of, you know, tarnished with this thing of being a troublemaker. And I suppose the troublemaking stuff came from just wanting to fit in, you know, because I mean, I've got ADHD, and not like I suppose people have got ADHD now. I mean, real ADHD. Had to sit there and go through a tried psychologist at the Sunshine Hospital, Dr. Martin Wright, and go through this whole thing and get administered drugs and all that stuff, which was actually amazing. You know, it changed me from being a kid that was in a lot of trouble to suddenly getting great grades. And then when I decided to leave school to start an apprenticeship, they just took it all off me. And I was only 16 and a half.
What, stop the drugs?
Yeah, because I wasn't in school anymore.
Well,
So-
what happened then?
Well, then I went into the workforce, and then I was suddenly 17 years old, a boy amongst men, unmedicated, trying to work it out, and it was bloody hard work.
But as a kid, you didn't have any trouble with the police or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I had great parents. I've got great parents, and my grandfather, in his previous life, was the sergeant of the local police force. So I was pretty shit scared of him, to be honest.
But you had a great relationship with him, didn't you?
I had the best relationship with him. So I think I was more afraid of letting him down rather than afraid of being punished by him. But there was many occasions where I could have been in a lot of trouble with the police. And by probably God's intervention, I wasn't. Because I felt, looking back now, I was right on that cusp. Whereas a lot of my mates were in trouble with police. And I think it was just a matter of minutes or seconds for me to be as well. Cooking would have been the thing that saved me. Because if I stayed in school and I stayed with those people that I was hanging around with and stayed in that environment, who knows what would have happened. I mean, this wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be sitting and talking to you.
But you're not a bad person. You wouldn't have done really bad things, do you think?
No. It wasn't bad things out of like, you know, I'm not, you were just put into, you're just young and you're trying to prove yourself. You know, you're trying to prove yourself that you're worth something to people that don't mean anything. You know, trying to prove your worth to those who are less worthy. And sometimes you make stupid decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you make stupid decisions at a young age, they stick with you. And then those stupid decisions become the story of your life. And I could have easily seen that could have been my life. Because I'm not a bad person. I think I'm a pretty good person.
What would you be doing now if you'd gone that with a sliding doors moment? What you'd be doing now?
Who knows? It was. I think the longer I stayed in school, the more dangerous my decisions were becoming. So it was the best thing for me to move on. I think the benefit would have been is that, as opposed to some of my mates, I actually had good people around me. You know, I had good uncles, good aunties, mum and dad, whereas a lot of my mates probably didn't have that. So the road that they were travelling down was a lot quicker than mine. I probably had a few handbrakes in between.
You've talked about anxiety and depression. Was that happening at that stage?
Definitely. most definitely.
How did you treat that?
Like I didn't know how to treat it. I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
I just knew that I'd go home at night. I'd wake up in the middle of the night feeling like I had 1,000 pounds on my chest every night. You know, feel like you've been crushed every day. Waking up in the middle of the night like almost crying and like you don't know what's happening. And that still happened into the early times of my career. You know, up until owning my own restaurants. You know, I think the difference then, well, later, was that I kind of, by that stage, knew that this wasn't normal and there's probably help. Whereas in the early times, as a teenager and sort of early 20s, I had no idea what it was about. And I sought help. You know, I sought help. I spoke to people, tried to understand a little bit more. But I made some conscious decisions too, which helped me. You know, physically tried to get myself better.
Yeah.
Tried to spiritually get myself better. You know, I'm not a preacher by any means.
What did you do spiritually?
I'm more connected to my faith now than I ever have been.
And what's your faith?
I'm Roman Catholic. I'm Catholic. So I grew up in a Catholic environment, lost connection for a long time, and like I said, I'm not a preacher. I'm accepting of all religions. You know, I think that people need to find whatever they need to find in their own world to help them get where they need to be. And I'm lucky enough that later in my life or my career, I've been able to reconnect with the values that I was brought up with and make them work for me, which has been great.
The anxiety, depression, those things still with you or not?
Definitely. Every day.
Do you medicate it?
No, not at the moment. No, I talk about them. I've got a very supportive wife. And I talk about them all the time. I spoke about them last night.
Why? What?
Oh, I think it's something you deal with all the time. I mean, I was speaking to her about, I worry about the state of our country. I worry about the state of our state, my career. I worry about, like I said this morning, I'm 46 years old. But I sit there and think, I don't know if I want to live with this pressure for the next 20 or 30 years. How am I going to keep providing? You know, I never used to think about these things. You know, in the early stage, I thought that as long as I keep working, you know, we've got enough forward momentum. We live in a great country. Things will keep happening. There's a mateship. There's things that happen in business that everyone will just keep pushing you forward. We'll be okay. I don't feel that anymore. So I think I live with this weight on me about what's next. You know, how am I going to, Maha as a restaurant is about to celebrate 18 years in business. I should be joyous about that, you know, and say, this is amazing, but it's so much pressure. Thinking, have I run my race? Have I got another 18 years in there?
What is the toughest thing about being a businessman as you are?
I've always been a strong believer in times of turmoil is when the greatest opportunity presents itself. You know, I think that in those moments where it's doom and gloom and everybody feels like it's a downtime is where the smart people and the strongest people can find pockets of brilliance. So I'm trying really hard not to be one of the people who only see doom and gloom. But I feel like right now the toughest challenge is that just generally people feel downtrodden, and there's been a break in the ecosystem that made our state brilliant. You know, if you think about it, from a very basic level, you know, you get up on a Monday morning, you drive in or you jump on the train. I know we don't buy papers anymore, but you'd buy a paper, grab a coffee, whether if you smoke or not, you'd buy some ciggies, you'd move around, you'd be a consumer all day. You'd bump into some people, you'd see people, whether you know them or not, you'd give them a nod. It's just this sense of familiarity that you'd have with people that no longer seems to be there. And I think that consistency, that genuine connection, that life is no longer in Melbourne. And that, for me as a restaurateur, is like a death knock. Like if we haven't got that life and that vibrancy and that confidence that there's enough positivity out there, then how do we confidently reinvest and blindly, because you have to be a bit blind in hospitality, blindly push forward to just take a chance and take a risk? Because I think the risks now are so great. You know, I walk around. I'm in the city every day. I don't work from home, mate. I'm there Monday to Saturday, and I walk around there like on a Monday morning, and I'm like, there's no one around.
It's a ghost town.
No, but depressingly, Neil, like depressingly, like we're trying to do everything we can. Like I said, we've got, you know, special offers on, and you know, I've had some of my core team saying, look, maybe we should start closing on Mondays. I'm not closing. I'm not retreating. we've had to work so hard to get the business open 7 days a week. Where we used to only be open 5, and then it was 6, and now it's I'm not retreating. I'm not retreating. I'm not retaliating. But then there's the other flip side about my staff want to be busy. And you walk around. Nobody wants to work in none of my people anyway want to work in a quiet restaurant. They want to work and you sit there and you're cutting back shifts and you're looking back and people are sort of, there's no buzz. How does that then fill me with confidence as a restaurateur to then open more things? So I think, what does the government do to understand small business? I don't think that they understand the pressures that small business are under. Costs are greater than ever. I mean, our operating costs are huge. Tax on top of tax on top of tax isn't making it easy. I was listening to a guy, he just popped up on my feed the other day talking about how, I can't remember even who the supplier is now, one of the biggest suppliers who own Dan Murphy's and everything else are closing a lot of their Australian vineyards and buying cheaper wine from abroad. I'm like, and he was whinging about that fact. And I'm like, well, that is the fact, but maybe have a look at the government as to why Australian producers can't compete globally, and maybe look at that, because if we could actually compete and make Australia more competitive for business, then we can compete. But if it's not commercially viable to do business here anymore, no wonder they're packing up.
So what's the one thing you do to make it better?
One thing you do to make it better, to make business better.
Yeah. And hopefully that if you make business better, it improves the mood of the population as well.
I think that there's not an easy fix. We all need to share some pain. I think we're not sharing the pain evenly at the moment. I think business is copping an absolute beating. People's cost of living is increasing, and they're finding it really hard with their wages. We need to all, including the government, take a step back. Whether it's business can't make any less money than what they're making. Government need to reduce a little bit of tax and spending, and we need to get a bit more in the pocket of the worker so we can all feel like we're a little bit more stable. So if we need to feel like we're actually can stand on our own 2 feet here. We need to produce stuff here again. We need to feel like Australia is actually a country that can look after itself.
Well, as you say, Maha opened 18 years ago and it's got a huge reputation in town. How different is it now to running that than it was 18 years ago? Has it changed much?
Yeah, it's changed. I mean, I've changed as well. So I'm trying to think who I was when I was a 28-year-old bloke opening Maha to who I am now 18 years later. Our clientele has changed. Our business offering has changed. Our market has shifted too. I mean, 70% of our trade used to be lunch. Now 80% of our trade is dinner. So a lot has changed. But I also think it's a lot tougher for people now. I think if I was a young restaurateur now, wanting to opening a restaurant of Maha's scale, of that size, in the CBD, the bar for competition is a lot higher. I mean, we've got great restaurateurs. Look at what Andrew McConnell's doing. I mean, you look at guys like Chris Lucas, and they're investing a lot of money. These are seasoned operators. The expectation of customers is now a lot higher, from everything from the uniform of the waiter to the fit out to everything else. They're expecting it to be. It's not good enough now just to serve great food and booze. The whole experience has to be better. So I think it's a lot tougher now for people to get in and operate and be competitive.
You're driven, aren't you?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think you've got a bit of imposter syndrome? You're trying to prove something to somebody, particularly yourself?
Yeah, probably to myself.
What the hell am I doing here? You've done this well.
I don't know if I've done this well. That's a bit I don't know. I say it to my...
Hang on, you got one of Melbourne's leading restaurants for 18 years. That's not bad.
Yeah, but I mean, for how long?
There's that self-doubt.
Yeah.
Because you see, I'm surprised. Do you have self-doubt, do you think? Because it can be a positive thing. It can drive you.
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, I need someone to compete against, and if I can't find someone, I'll compete against myself. I mean, I hate being complacent. I think complacency causes like cancer. It sits there and it rots and it rips you apart. I'm constantly. I just thought we just finished our last financial year, all right, and I thought I'll do it at the end of every financial year. I sit there and think about, forget the P&L. What did we do this year? What did we do? And I'm like, okay, well, we did a new TV show overseas. We opened up our, restaurant Jada next door for 7 days of trade. We celebrated our first year of trading in Brisbane at our restaurant Layla. And I'm like, okay, that's not bad. What are we doing next year? And that's when I start feeling anxious. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing next year. My team needs something. We need something to do.
You mentioned your grandfather and how important he was to you. Is that the guy who helped you rebuild cars?
No, that was one. So that was my uncle from my mum's side of the family. My mum's side of the family is different from my dad's side of the family. So all Maltese, but my mum's side of the family, her mum and dad migrated to Australia independently, both like 18, 19 years old, met here and married within 6 months. Um, so then my mum's a first generation Australian, and she met. So and then they were very like if I think about my mum and my dad's side were the Waggy ones and my mum's side were the Aussie ones. Even though they were all Maltese, but they were, into building cars and into rock and roll music and living in Preston and, went to school here. So first, even though they experienced racism, as first generations in the, 50s and 60s, um, they were very different than my dad's side. My dad's side all migrated here. My dad came on his own, then brought his sisters and then his mum and dad over. They were very Maltese.
I'm so impressed by the idea of rebuilding cars. That's huge.
Yeah, it was fun. I loved it.
Well, why the hell did you buy a purple Monaro? It's like driving a bucket of cold water.
No, I love it. I love it. I've got
You haven't still got it.
Yeah, no, I've got it. Yeah, beautiful. It's an original HQ GDS, purple and white. I love that thing. That's my pride and joy. Um, we were a Holden family. My dad worked at like I said, he worked at Dunlop. He ended up doing work with Dunlop Motorsport. We'd go and watch supercar racing on the weekend. His dad's favourite day of the year was when Bathurst was on.
So you must have loved driving in a celebrity race then.
Oh mate, that's one of the best things you can do.
It's like putting on the pads and going on Boxing Day to bat for Australia.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
so good. It's one of the best things I've done in my life. And
Were you fast?
hey,
Were you
I
quick?
came second.
Did you?
Yeah, I came second, but I only came second because I smashed a couple of other blokes in front of me.
Not competitive, no. Braised rabbit.
Yep.
What's the importance of braised rabbit in your career? Was that from one of your grandfathers?
Yeah, so Phoenix Stufat is our mash. You don't like it?
No, but I had to eat a lot of it when I was growing up. My
Okay.
father used to catch them.
Okay, well, so it's our national dish. It goes back to the times of the Knights in Malta, where the elite wanted to eat rabbit. They put a ban on eating rabbit for the locals. Maltese being Maltese, they said, get stuffed and we're going to make it our national dish. But it's probably the one dish that really made me want to become a chef. We always grew up eating rabbit. My grandfather would pen them and then give them all to the grandkids, and we'd grow them until they were big, and then they'd just disappear, and then miraculously we'd be eating rabbit on the weekend. No one could work out why. But then one day I went to my grandfather's on the weekend and with my dad, and we always go on a Sunday, but never really on a Saturday. Dad said we're going on to see Nunnu, and we went there and walked into the backyard, and my grandfather's sitting there with his khaki shorts on and his white singlet and buckets on the floor and his knife and sharpening it, and I'm going, what's going on? And then before I knew it, we were just. It sounds quite gruesome, but before I knew it, we were in this process of my grandfather pulling out bunnies out of a cage, and he'd kind of calm them down, and then with one fell chop, he'd break their neck, and then put them in the bucket, and then my dad and I'd grab one side, Dad grab the other side, and he'd skin them, and it sounds vulgar and gruesome.
I've done it.
Yeah,
And similar.
yeah, but I just felt like I was a part of something, like that I had something being passed down to me that my grandfather had been taught from his father. My father was there, my father was showing me, and I felt like it was something really beautiful. And at the end of it, my grandfather then finished cleaning them up, took them inside to my grandmother, and I sat with my grandmother while she started preparing them, while my grandfather cleaned himself, and then came in and we all cooked them together. And then the next day we sat down as a family of 50 people and ate these rabbits. And I really honestly felt like it was a spiritual moment where I'd been given something. I'd been given a gift. And that was probably the moment that I said, I really want to become a chef.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you serve your kids rabbit?
Yeah.
They
yeah,
like it?
Yeah. Look, I mean, they're kids. They hate everything in the beginning, but I think they like it. They like it when they know why. If we go to a restaurant, they're not going to order it. But if I'm cooking at home, they'll eat it.
Is there anything you don't like eating?
Yeah, I don't like avocados.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like avocados. I know people always look at me like I'm weird. I think it's the texture.
Yeah, it can be soft.
Yeah, I don't, and and I know people always think as a chef you're supposed to like everything. I'm not a fan of blue cheese. It's a bit intense for me. I'm not really a big fan of that really big. It's a bit
What
too
about
much.
Brussels sprouts?
Yeah, I can do Brussels sprouts.
Well, you put something in
Yeah,
them
you
to make
roast them. Yeah,
roast?
Yeah, roast them. They're beautiful. They come
Bit of
crunchy.
yeah, you don't put bacon or onion.
Oh, you can. They're beautiful. But I think when they're roasted and crispy, they're beautiful.
What's your proudest moment in business?
A recent proud moment was what I was able, and I know that it's a bittersweet one, what I was able to do for a lot of people, especially for my industry during COVID with Providor. I know that there was some flack off the back of it with how the business was liquidated and how people felt like they were hard done by with the gift cards thing. And I acknowledge that. You know that.
Well, it's claimed it was $4.5 million
Yeah.
worth of gift cards just went.
Yeah,
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they went through to the liquidator. They weren't a was it a secured asset or whatever they're described, and it was out of my hands. It was in the hands of the liquidator. But that aside, which I'm not saying it's it's.
Well, you did apologise for it. Too.
I would and I continue to apologise for it. I mean, it's I'm not saying it doesn't deserve an apology. People felt hard done by, and I'm the front man. I'll take the bullets.
Yep.
On the flip side of that, the amount of I've had 10 times the amount of compliments and positive comments from people saying you did so much for me during lockdown. You gave us something to look forward to. Restaurateurs who come and say our businesses wouldn't be here without doing that. I felt very proud that at a moment of distress where it looked like everything was falling apart, I could do something that could help people have some hope.
Did that cost you money yourself?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. A fair bit,
Yeah,
obviously.
definitely. I mean, look, it's yeah, there was one stage at that business before it all went belly up, where the business had done really, really well, and there was like a lot of money in the bank. And I remember having a conversation. I had an advisory board, and saying to the guys, "Hey, why don't we just close this thing now? It looks like we're coming out of this lockdown. I'll just shut the business down. We'll pay out everything we do, and there's still going to be a big chunk of money there, and I'll just put it in my pocket, And there was 5 of us. A couple of them were like, "Yep, I agree." And then it came back to me, and I was like, "Okay, let me just sit on it." And I felt like I had an obligation to the people that I've just employed to run that business because, we had a bloke that our CEO, Tim McKinnon, who just left as the managing director of eBay Australia to come and run this thing for me. He had a very high-paying job. He left that to come and do that with us. A bunch of other people who had just left high-paying jobs because they believed in this business. And I thought, I can't do this to these people. I can't get them to leave their job and now just shut the business.
Well, explain to us, how did it work? What was the concept? How did it work?
So we were a marketplace. So we were like eBay. So we owned the platform, which was Providor. You'd go on there as a punter and go, I want to order some dinner for tonight or tomorrow night. I'm going to go on to Supernormal. You click on Supernormal. They'd have all their food there. And it would be 3/4 finished. So the chefs would prepare it all. They'd then pack it all. They'd send it out. We would, as a business, as Providor, we'd send it out to your home, cold freight, and then you'd open the box. There'd be some instructions, and you do the last 20%. You put it all together, and you get to have that experience at home. So it gave people some, a moment of freedom. But also, it was really good. The restaurants that were doing it were the actual restaurants that you would go to.
Can it still work outside COVID?
I always believed that it had a place. I think it had to evolve. I think that we had some really good ideas to evolve the product. We just didn't have a chance to do it.
Success stories. Joe Hockey famously got you to cook for the G20 in Washington.
That was fun.
That'd be a bit intimidating.
Yeah, very intimidating, especially because it was early on in my career.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't think I was good enough, or I was the bloke that they should have taken. I thought, geez, I look at my peers and go, there's some amazing chefs, and you're choosing me. But it was my first probably big international cooking opportunity. And to go over there to the White House to cook for the the G20 financial summit, bringing Australian ingredients, Australian wine, cooking on the other side of the world, it was a huge eye opener.
Any stuff ups?
On that one?
Oh, there always are.
No, I'm trying to think. It was a while ago now. I had a stuff up with my wife. I got in a fight. Jeez.
What, at the G20?
Yeah, no, she came with me. I remember I had an argument. But anyway, I remember the photo. We had this photo. But no, I think it went pretty smoothly. I think we had some. Look, it's amazing what you can do when you have to get things there for government. I mean, if we had to bring that stuff in on our own, all the wine and the food, we probably would have had a bit of a hard time.
Is it right? You'd sometimes get to Maha, look through who'd been in, and just call customers cold.
Definitely.
The next morning, see how it went.
Pre CRM, so at the moment there's like your sort of everyone does it now automatically. So now you'll go into a restaurant or something and you'll get that, an email will come out automatically. How'd you have it, how'd you enjoy yourself, and give us some feedback. But before any of that stuff, I really, really wanted to know how we were doing. So I would ask my managers at the end of the night to just write up a quick shift report, which they still do, and just pick three random names. Joe, Billy, and Sarah. Give me their thing. One from 6 o'clock, one from 7, one from 9, and I would ring them up in the morning. And not that I was anybody. Like I hadn't even really started on doing any television. Say, hey, g'day, it's Shane Delia here from Maha Restaurant. And I was always waiting for their response to think like, who? Or hey, how are you? And 90% of the people, 95% of the people were so nice. And they'd say, oh, we had a great time. Thanks, mate. It was great. But you'd get, 5 to 10% who weren't so happy. And that was the gold.
Could they be constructively critical?
100%.
Yeah, that's good.
100%. They were the ones, and it would hurt you to your soul, because we give everything, in our job. I mean, if I'm ringing them up at 10 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't have finished until midnight. So by the time you get home and you have a shower and you get to bed, then the first thing you hear is, oh, look, mate, you stuffed this up, or we didn't like that, or this happened, or they could be really upset about something. I remember one instance. This was a bit later on. I'd already done my first TV show. An older couple from regional New South Wales had watched all the shows, never had a chance to go overseas, but wanted to come in on their 50th wedding anniversary to Maha. So they flew in, booked a dinner, and we stuffed up everything. Everything that we could stuff up, we stuffed it up. Didn't have their booking in the right time, sat them where they didn't want to seat, they got the wrong food, we messed up everything. And luckily, she was one of the names. I didn't know about it. My guys hadn't even put it in the report. One of the names I called. And she was so lovely. She was like, I feel really bad to tell you all this stuff. And honestly, Neil, I felt like everything I'd done, up until that point, was a failure. And I remember sitting in the morning with my team, I go, we have to fix this. And they're like, how? I said, well, we're going to fly her back out here. We're going to put her up in a hotel, her and her husband. We're going to pay for the dinner, and I don't care what it cost. We have to make this right. I said, 50th wedding anniversary, that's huge. And she can't afford to go overseas, but she spent her money to come to Melbourne, and we stuffed it up. And we did everything we could. We sent a valet to the airport, we picked her up, we put her in, and she had a great time, her and her husband. We've lost contact with them.
What about the bad customers, though? I mean, I heard somebody talking about Darren Hinch after he died recently, and he said Darren had a trick. If he's going to lunch with one person, he wanted a big table, so he'd ring up and order for four. Table for four, and then he'd turn up, there'd be two, and we don't need the others now.
Yeah, that's not a great
That does
customer.
you out of money, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's not a great customer. That's not a great customer. Look, we get interesting customers. I mean, I think the majority of our customers are good. I think the hardest thing, especially in me, if you haven't noticed, I'm quite emotional. Social media is a blessing and a curse, right? Every muppet with a microphone now or the phone thinks they're a journo, all right? So just this morning, we had a guy write a Google review, 1 star, how he came in and he read the menu. I didn't drink any alcohol, and it was $500 for two of us. First of all, I'm going, how's it $500 for two of you? Our menu's a set price menu. It's $135 a pop. That doesn't add up. You haven't drinking the alcohol. And he goes, and it's misleading. It says banquet, $135. Where does it say that's per person? I'm sitting there going, oh, dickhead. Seriously? So that kind of stuff, it's more a blight on them than me, but it's frustrating. But generally, we don't really have many issues with customers. Where we do have issues, it's generally where we haven't lived up to an expectation, which is we get really upset about, because our core purpose is to create memorable experiences that exceed expectations. So if someone's come in with these really high expectations and we try to achieve it and we haven't been able to do it, it's not that they say the food wasn't good or we didn't have a good time, we were just expecting more. And that's like a dagger to the heart.
But I've heard stories of customers the next day faking food poisoning.
Oh, definitely.
That happens?
Yep, definitely.
What, just to get out of a bill or something?
To get compensation, to say that we've had customers say that they saw a rodent in the restaurant, or that they didn't like the food and that they didn't want to say anything on the night because they didn't want to be embarrassed. And then when you say, okay, look, we're incredibly sorry, they say, well, how are you going to make it right. We're like, well, what would you like us to do? And then they just start saying, well, and then you might say, okay, look, I'll give you a $100 voucher to use on your next return, which is my profit. So you're coming in for free anyway. You already just cover your costs. And then they're like, then they threaten you with a Google review. Don't threaten us. Like that's the worst of the worst. Imagine if I came into your office job and sat beside you all day and criticised the shit out of you and then put it up on your annual performance so your boss didn't give you a pay rise. I mean, you wouldn't like that too much. I mean, my guys have feelings. Like they're professionals. Like, it's pretty tough.
Could you teach me to cook something edible?
Oh, mate, I could teach a bricklayer how to cook something edible. I mean, you'd be right. Yeah.
What's the secret? What's the key?
I think understanding. I think the key is understanding the process. I think that's with anything.
But I see a list of 10 ingredients. Oh, it's too hard.
Don't do the 10 ingredients. Make it even simpler. Like, something tasty doesn't need 10, 20 ingredients. I mean, I'm a fan of a dim sum from a bain marie. So, it doesn't need to be complex to be good. Like, I grew up on a dish that my mum would make for us, which was a Maltese dish. The sauce has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. Tomato paste, garlic, onions, a little bit of curry paste, and peas. All right? That's it. You can put that sauce on anything and it tastes good. So a little bit of pasta, that, tasty as.
Just to wrap up, you talked earlier about values. And I've been thinking a lot about Australian values lately. Now, you'd have a view of that being, I'm Australian born, but being part of this sort of migrant family, migrant group. We're losing sight of what they are. What are they?
No, well, two different questions, I think. Are we losing sight? I think identifying what they are is really hard because I think it's more of a feeling than a statement. I mean, I feel Australian. I'm proud, and I want others to feel the way that I feel. Like, I feel like I don't look at race. I don't look at colour. I can see people walking in the street and sounding Australian, and the way they're engaging as Australian. That's Australian. The way you're looking out for people, and your sense of camaraderie, and your desire to be a larrikin, and your value structure, to your values of mateship, and I don't know, just general pride of being an underdog. I think we're always, we've got this underdog spirit as Australians. Whether you're a part of a minority community or not, we still should have this overarching Australianism about us. I used to love traveling around the world, and I'd always make sure that I carried a statement piece, whether it's my Western Bulldogs backpack or something that had an Australian something on it, because I'd want people to know who I am. Whether it's on my suitcase an Australian sticker on it, I'd want people to know. You don't see that anymore. I don't see that camaraderie. And you'd see somebody else, and you'd be like, "How are you?" I don't see that anymore. Everybody's in their phone.
And why do you think? What's happened?
I don't know. I think for whatever it is, we are divided. I think, and this is a touchy one. Like I said, I'm Catholic. All right. And I'm not pushing my religion on anybody or saying we should be a Catholic country by any means. But we need to have a value structure that we all live by, right? Whether it's and it doesn't have to be around a religion, but I think Australia was built, our law system, everything was built around, I suppose, a Catholic structure, I feel like that has been broken down. Like, what's right, what's wrong, how we should live, how we should treat one another, irrespective of sex or gender, how we treat each other. Those pillars are being broken, and in the absence of control, chaos reigns. I think we're losing control.
Have you talked to your parents about that? Because they're the sort of people who have helped build this country, and they would have grown up, and particularly coming from Europe, as you described with your father, and sort of saying, right, I'm going to be an Aussie now.
Yeah.
Do they have that feeling?
Yeah, it's interesting. My father and I have. It's really challenging. I would think that he and I are very aligned on the way we think, and sometimes we're not. And he almost resents. Not that I'm not educated enough to probably have a good grasp on a proper political opinion. My dad is a Labor man, an old school Melbourne, old school Labor guy who's all about, Australia and everything else. But I said to him, Dad, the Labor that you grew up with and remember and fought for, I don't think is the Labor that's here now. So do you understand that? And he's like, yeah, but where you're leaning, that's not who we are. And I said, no, I'm not that person either. I said, I just think that the country that you fought for and helped build and want to protect, I don't know if that's the actual reality of where I live now. I said, you came here to fight for something that you think I've got, and I don't have it. You fought for something that you were hoping that we would have, and you were trying to build something that was for the greater good of your kids and my kids. But the reality is where we are isn't there. We didn't get there. And I don't think he understands that. He's at a different stage of his life. My dad's in his retirement. He's not, he's not impacted about whatever's happening. I'm in the thick of it. And I'm saying to him, Dad, I don't know if we're there. I don't know if we achieved what you wanted us to, as a society, that you wanted us to achieve.
Well, thank you for talking. Just more TV ahead, I hope. Lots of TV for you.
Yeah, I'm on Channel 9 every week with postcards.
Yeah,
but I
saw you in the pub this week.
Yeah, I was at the Ascot Hotel.
Well, you've agreed to this. I'll subject you to the Millennial Inquisition.
Yeah, done.
That was the boomer doing it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
With Neil, you mentioned outdated dishes. What makes a dish outdated?
It's actually funny because what's old is new again now. If you look at the great restaurants and the great chefs that are cooking things both locally and internationally, which I'm loving because it's stuff that I did my bones in, the old dishes are coming back. So you're thinking of, coq à la vin, parfait, and, like even things like Milanese, like all these classic dishes are coming back in vogue, and they're actually being cooked really well. What hopefully doesn't come back is probably the food that we were seeing in the early thousands, which was all this molecular gastronomy stuff, which actually didn't taste great at all. It was more just about bells and whistles.
Sure. So it's sort of like fashion in the way that it sort of comes back. Things come back in
Yeah,
fashion.
the good things come back. Like I don't think anybody's, people might be. I used to have some pretty bodgy parachute pants and stuff in the late 90s. I don't see people wearing those. But the good things come back, right? The good things come back. And what's been really nice is those good things that were really hard to produce, took a lot of skill, are actually coming back in a solid way where I thought they were dead, because I thought those skills were lost.
So what defines Australian cuisine?
That's a good one. I think what we do well with Australian cuisine is what I try to do with my cuisine. So we call our food unrestricted Middle Eastern. People always say, is it contemporary? Is it Lebanese? I said, no, we say unrestricted Middle Eastern because we should be living, I think we're living, without restriction in this country. Okay? We've got some of the world's greatest produce. We've got access to it. We've got brilliant chefs and open-minded clientele. So all I try to do is I take Middle Eastern food and culture, not from a region, and I bring it here and I unleash it unrestrictedly. So I think we do that well. I think what we do is we take great dishes and influences from around the world and we present them in an unrestricted fashion. So we'll have Thai and Indonesian and Japanese technique all on the same plate and find a way to make it.
So you'd say Australian cuisine's more fusion than just like the sausage and bread?
Yeah, fusion can become confusion though. So you have to be careful. We find a way to I think we find a way to assimilate. We find and really that should be at the sense of who, not just with food, it's who we are as a country, right? We should take the best from everything and find a way to make it stick. And I think we do that with food. We do that with food really well.
So what about ingredients? So like if you use cheap milk versus expensive milk, like it tastes different to drink, but in cooking it's not that different. What ingredient makes the biggest difference if you go expensive?
No, I challenge you on that. Cheap milk to drink and cheap milk to cook, that is different. Cheap product will always taste cheap. And I think that if you look at great restaurants, and I think you look at people like everyone, I'll use a name everybody knows, you look at Neil Perry in Sydney, okay? If you look at his restaurants, the food that he cooks is quite simple in approach, but he cooks it with very good produce. Buys very good fish, very good olive oil, little bit of herb, done. Executed perfectly with exceptional produce, and it just creates a beautiful symphony, right? You have to be a lot better chef to make something subpar taste good. So I think that, I forgot what your main question was, but I think quality produce will always outshine, crappy produce.
So there isn't something in particular that you'd say, yeah, it's worth really spending the money on like that pristine?
Definitely. Look, I think it's a simple one, apples with apples. a beautiful piece of Australian grass-fed beef against something that's been, handled really badly, just jammed grain down its throat its whole life. I mean, you eat them side by side, you invest the money in the better piece of beef. Same thing with seafood. I think the primary thing you're eating, ingredient, if you're eating it standalone, is always worth putting the money in. A beautiful tomato in the summer versus a tomato that's been sitting, been brought in from overseas and then ripened with chemicals side by side, can't compare.
Weird question for you. Are eggshells weaker than they used to be?
No, I think I've just gotten stronger. No, 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 I don't know.
Because a lot of people seem to be commenting on it at the moment.
Do they?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's actually a really good one. I don't know.
Josh Weissman, you know him on
Yeah, yeah.
YouTube? Yeah, even he commented on it recently when cooking something and he had a disaster with an egg.
And they just broke really quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I tell you, there might be something in that. Because I've caught myself out a few times where I've been breaking eggs. I've just, they've like disintegrated in my hand. And I've just gone, the gym's been. But now you're making me actually think that maybe it's the product.
Uber Eats.
Yep.
How's it changed the industry for you?
100%. I've got a brand called Biggie Smalls. We've got one at the Melbourne Airport. We've got two up in Optus Stadium in Perth. I opened that business 6 months before Uber Eats opened. Okay, so we built it on the old model. All right, the old model was if you want a QSR, which quick service restaurants, which is sort of premium takeaway, you would have to get a high street address. We had one Smith Street, Collingwood, Chapel Street, Windsor. All right, great primes, high street things. Spent good money to buy them. We spent good money on architects and builders to produce beautiful shops that people would want to come into and have an experience and line up for, create all that buzz and all that stuff. So we built our business model on that, put our money out of our pockets and bang. And had a great response for the first 6 months. And then Uber Eats came in. Now, and what that meant is that suddenly to get that product and even the buzz of the DNA, of the brand DNA, you could get that at home. You didn't have to now come to see us, even though that was half the experience. You could still take your photo and at home with the product, and we would lose, say, 50% of your revenue instead of coming from the front door would go out the back door, and off that 50%, you'd lose 30% of it so it changed that model like overnight. Whereas we had a strategy to grow 10 restaurants in the first 2 years, and we were well on track. We ended up having no restaurants, and now we just have them at the airport and in stadiums because that's where the people are, and you can't get Uber Eats in there. So, look, I see it the upside for the customer, most definitely. I mean, as much as I hate it, I don't hate the product as much as I hate that my kids use it, especially when we live off a major street and there's blokes there that they can walk to and buy it. I understand the necessity. Shit, there's times where I come home in the middle of the night and I'm buggered, and I'm like, I can't even be bothered cooking. A bowl of noodles would be great. Boom, it's there in 5 minutes. I get it. So I get it, but it definitely made an impact.
Has it changed the clientele that turn up? Because I've seen, maybe it's a bit anecdotal, but around my area, it's primarily boomers and older people still going out, where it seems like younger people are ordering at home.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yep. I try to think about the restaurants. I use Uber Eats out of necessity, whereas I suppose I maybe because I'm a bit old school that if it's belting down rain and I'm stuffed and I'm in my PJs already, it's Uber Eats. But if I'm not, I'll place the order and I'll go down there and pick it up. One, because I also want to get it here when it's hot, and I also want to hand over my cash to the bloke that's in there. So, yeah, probably has.
What dish do you think everybody should be able to cook?
What dish should everyone be able to cook? You should be able to cook a basic pasta. Like a basic red sauce pasta. I think that's the basic. That's like the new bachelor's handbag. You know what the bachelor's handbag is? Yeah, okay. So that you should be able to do that. I think as just a basic rigatoni, red tomato sauce. I mean, really, you could do it just with passata, onions, and garlic, and cook that. I mean, it's vegetarian too, right? You can buy gluten-free pasta, make it even easier.
If you're trying to test a restaurant or a chef, what do you order?
Good one. If you're trying to test a restaurant or a chef, well, first of all, I try not to go into restaurants and test the restaurant or the chef that I'm going into, and it's really hard, Like it's really tough. If it's a restaurant that is I'm very lucky that a lot of the times I'm really excited to go to a restaurant. You know, 'cause if especially if it's a new restaurant that I haven't been to, and maybe it's someone I know. If it's a friend of mine, I'm really wanting it to be great. If it's someone that I don't know, I'm equally wanting it to be great. And the more hype, the more pressure, because you're sitting there going, "Well, this should be bloody good." Um, I'm looking more at the service than I am at the food. Maybe it's my sympathetic heart as a chef. I understand things can go wrong, um, and that food evolves over time in a restaurant, especially when it's new. But I'm looking at the experience, at the actual the welcome, the warmth of the restaurant, primarily. Because if you leave, I mean, I think you're always more forgiving of a place where the food was maybe not up to scratch, but you had great service, as opposed to the food being out of this world and it's just really shitty service. So I want the service to be great. So I'm testing the front of house team.
Well, obviously you're avoiding anything with avocado, but what about, is there a dish that you see that you go, right, I have to order that if you see it on a menu?
Yeah, I like char kway teow.
What's that?
It's like a Malaysian fried noodle dish. So it's like flat rice noodles with char siu pork and prawns and crunchy little bits of pork in it. Duck, ketchup, manna soy. I mean, I love Malaysian food. I love Malaysian food because it's a true melting pot of cultures, and the food is really exciting and it's unique. I really, when I think about my old school French training, I like anything with foie gras, so anything with duck liver. Really, really love it. Geez, there's so much about food that I love.
Do you love durian?
No. No, come on, mate. Like, no. Like, that's a no. No, who does? Like,
Well, you talk about Malaysians, a lot of Malaysians do.
yeah, I know, but outside Malaysia, Jesus.
I personally can't stand wine in both cooking and drinking.
Oh, wow.
How do I get a more mature palate so I can start appreciating it?
It's not about mature. I think it's about exposure. Shit wine's shit, and you're never going to enjoy it. If you do, there's something wrong with you. It means you're an alcoholic. All right? So I think you want to be exposed to good wine and in small amounts to understand what you like. All right, so understand what you like. So I'm happy to help you.
Thank you.
I've got a great cellar, and I've always wine for us in our family has never been taboo. I remember even as a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, the wine would be around. You know, we were never told you can't have that. You know, at dinner. You know, and from even with my kids, if I'd open a bottle of something at dinner or we'd be out, I'd always ask them, "Do you want to try this?" And I'd say, "It's because it's good. Like I'm only offering it to you because this is like bloody good." And you know, my daughter just does not enjoy wine at all. She's about to turn 18. My son, unfortunately, he's got a very refined palate and he's a big white Burgundy drinker. And you know, the bottles of wine he likes normally got a 2 or a 3 at the start of them. So, you know, I think we've got great wine in Australia, but maybe we need to introduce you to the top of the chain straight away.
I think my dad will like that. Thank you very
I
much.
reckon a little bit of, you know, who can say no to a bottle of Montrachet, a bottle of white Burgundy, nice and soft, really nice. It's a good entry, you know, sort of. If you're on your journey with wine, it's a beautiful start.
I'll give it a shot. Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you.
No worries.